Okay, I am now live. I hope everyone can hear me well. Okay, I'm gonna post a comment now. So, pinning it so everyone can see. If you have a question, you can just tag Blender Studio and then I can see it easier. And I'm gonna turn on the music. Nice. Okay, I hope everyone can hear me. So, another stream for UV unwrapping a character. So, I was actually a bit torn on what I should stream about this week, because there's like, I could have just as well done a stream for set dressing, but I feel like it might have been a bit more difficult on this computer again. I'm right now working on probably the most complicated set in the entire movie of Sprite Fright, because it's just so huge and interconnected with all kinds of sequences and shots, and it's just a huge hassle. But it is quite interesting. Maybe I'm gonna make a video or something about it afterwards. But anyway, if you can't hear me, if there's any issues, just let me know in the comments and I will just get to it. So, last stream, I left off over here. I already did all the UVs for the body. So if I just go to the UV editing workspace, we can see that I placed the seams, I arranged all of the UV islands on 3 different UDIMs. So if I hold on, in the overlays, if I display UV stretching, I can see it a bit more better, how well these UVs actually hold up. And I'm actually going to change something. I'm actually going to change the visibility of the wires from outline to black. It just makes it a bit easier to read. And I don't have any dark textures behind the UVs, so it actually, like, I don't need an outline. The outline is the default because it ensures that the UV wires are going to be visible in basically any scenario, but black just takes up a bit less space. So now I can see the UVs a bit more clearly. So one of the things I really want to adjust is to make sure that some of the stretching gets reduced a bit more. Like, there is quite a bit of difference between the proper term would be textile density, but it's like the distribution of the UVs on the UV space. Blue means it's like taking up very little space, and the more it goes to red, the more it takes up too much space. Somewhere between like yellow and green is actually the optimal amount. So I would like to tweak this a bit more. And basically, because it's 3 different UV UDIMs, the color is going to be different between them. So I don't mind that this part over here is way more yellow and this one is way more green, because I want the hands to take up more space. That's why I have them on a different UDIM tile. So this stream is going to be less of probably a bit less slow pace. I'm still happy to explain anything if you have any questions, but it's not going to be quite a tutorial for UV unwrapping. Okay. If I now look at I'm actually going to change the viewport display. Okay, here we go. Studio lighting. I'm going to use this one, which is usually used for painting, but it actually lights everything quite evenly. It's super nice. Maybe I'm also going to enable a cavity. Yeah, just to get a bit more depth in there. It's just a bit for visualization, but yeah. If I look at this, most of the head, or like the face, is pretty evenly distributed. I like that. It's getting a bit stretched towards the nose and the lips, and I can't quite do anything about that. That's just a natural thing that happens, because you can't unfold the face more evenly unless you place more seams, and I don't want to cut out the nose, for example. There's pretty much been only one character ever where I cut out the nose, and that's because the nose was insanely protruding outwards, and it just made it so hard to get away with stretching, without stretching. Anyway, the lips, as you can see over here, it is a bit like stretching outwards, and I would like to tweak that. So I'm gonna select everything and disable overlays just so I can see the model a bit more clearly. And everything that's selected shows up in the UV editor, so I'm gonna zoom in over here. By the way, I love the new splitting and merging editors over here. So if I like drag this over here, I can like split and merge editors. And now if I like drag this over here, I can actually switch these. I can just recommend to like play around with this, with like dragging across corners and see how it works. But it's actually quite intuitive to just like have these angled horizontally or vertically this way. Okay, I'm gonna switch to orthographic in the viewport, just so I can actually see the distribution of the UVs a bit more clearly. Okay, and then I still have like a bunch of these little pins over here, and I would like to select them and move them over. Let's see. I'm actually going to first off hide the UV points over here in the center so that they don't move, and then I'm going to enable proportional editing with O. Does it actually show up? Weird. Wait. Where's proportional editing? I think it actually doesn't show up in the UV editor. Seems like a strange bug. Oh. Wait, what? Okay, I'm good. Just trying to get the size down. There we go. Okay. Oh boy, it's really lagging behind. Okay. I'm actually going to disable the subdivision surface modifier in edit mode, just so this all runs much more smoothly. Okay, and then with O, if I press O, I'm enabling proportional editing, and then I can move any of these points a bit more easily. There we go. I'm actually going to pin all of these. This entire line at the corner of the mouth. There we go. These are actually not connected. That's not good. I'm gonna merge these. Can I? Yes, I can. Perfect. At least it's using the same shortcut as in edit mode. Just M for merging. Let's see. Okay. I think the issue lies more with the chin as well. So if I would move this further inwards, I can see that it actually also relieve some of the stretching. Yes, that's it. Looking much better. There we go. Okay, I'm much more happy with this right now. And just because I changed one side, the easiest way to keep the other side in sync is to just mirror it across. I made sure that all of the UVs are actually completely symmetrical. All 3 UDIM tiles are completely symmetrical. So if I would now actually just select the whole center loop, I could just hide it, delete one side and mirror it across, but I could also just add a mirror modifier like this. Okay. And then I'm going to, first of all, set bisect on X. So it's not just mirroring over one side to the other, it's also deleting the other side for me. Then I will also mirror the UVs along the U axis, which I can set over here, and also enable flip UDIMs. So it actually also, I can like read the tooltip over here for more info. It mirrors the texture coordinates around each tile center. So along all 3 tiles, it would actually just mirror the UVs as well. So I can just apply this, and now I got all the changes actually applied. Just like that. Perfect. I also see a first question. Why is the mirror modifier not working while a shape key is added? Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. It's shape keys are a bit tricky. Once you have them, a lot of modifiers can, like any modifier, can't be applied anymore. That's sadly how it works. I wish it wouldn't be the case. There's some technical reason behind it, but you can actually get around that issue by, let's say, hold on. I can actually quickly, wait, can't I? Yeah, I can run Blender from here. So let's say I have an object over here. I'm just going to quickly answer that question just because it's an interesting problem. Like you have a shape key, and in that shape key, like you've done some stuff, and you have like a subdivision surface modifier even, and you want to apply it, and it says no, you can't. Sorry. What you can do to keep that shape key around is you could duplicate the object. On one of the objects, delete the shape key, and on the other object, delete the basis, and then delete the shape key. So now you got these 2 different shapes, which are basically exactly your shape keys. You can apply the modifier on both of these objects, and then select your shape key object, select your original object, and then over here you can say join as shapes, and it will actually take all of your selected objects and add it as a shape key to your active object. So you have essentially your shape back. So you can just apply any modifier, and that's how it works. I just wish it would do that automatically. Like if you would ever want to apply a modifier, it would just do exactly that. But it doesn't. Anyway, getting back to the UVs. So overall, there's still some like little areas over here which I would like to tweak, and I think because of that, I'm actually going to keep the mirror modifier for now. So, enabling bisect. Here we go. And also flip UVs. So now if I would actually change one side over here, it would change both. Like you can see that any changes to the UVs are actually mirrored across to the other side. Perfect. Okay, hold on. Maybe someone knows about this. I'm kind of confused that there's no proportional editing settings in the UV editor. Maybe I'm missing something. Especially because I want to enable connected proportional editing, which is usually Alt-O, but in this case that would open an image. The shortcut is already taken. Maybe I'm not remembering something. Anyway, I'm just gonna continue. So one thing I could do, I guess, is to actually use the grab brush in sculpt mode, which does actually work with connected islands. So I can just grab any of these points over here and just move them around. And it's actually automatically masking off the islands that are not connected, like that. So now this is distributed just a bit better. These are the inner nostrils, so I'm just gonna keep them like that. I think that's fine. Over here, that's the... Oh boy, that's the temple. No, it's the... What is that? That is actually the back of the head. So why, if I move this, does it actually freak out? It's very strange. Do I need to mirror it? No. I remember this issue with live unwrap, but usually it's when faces are inverted. It's very strange. Well, one thing I could do in this case is just to pin everything over here, and then I have full control over it. Or not. Interesting. I think I see what's happening. I'm gonna sync the selection between the 3D viewport and the UV editor, and yes, I unwrapped this wrong. I'm actually connecting the two UV islands over here on this side. Hold on, where is this? Wow. Yeah, this I'm connecting the two sides over here on this side, which makes no sense. I want it to be connected over here, and that is this edge. That's fascinating. I unwrapped this in a pretty wrong way, so I'm gonna unpin this completely. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna undo me pinning like the entire thing. Yeah, there we go. And then I'm gonna unsync the selection just to be sure I'm never messing anything up. So Alt-P, unpinning everything over here. And then I'm just gonna unwrap this again, this specific part. And then I can scale it down. Hold on. Oh, it also happened with the inner mouth, because there's no seam over here. Mark seam. Yeah. Sorry if I'm not explaining this well right now, but I just have to figure out what exactly was messing up my UVs. I also see some new questions. How do you use the asset browser? Well, I don't use them. I don't use it yet. It's very experimental, and I'm still waiting a bit until I can actually use it properly. Also a question: why is your unwrapped mesh colored in the UV editor? You actually have overlays. Hold on. in the UV editor, and it's called Display Stretch. And then you can show your area stretching, so how much space your UVs are taking up, and angle stretching, how much they're getting skewed. So these are actually really helpful, and I would mainly focus on this one, the area stretching. So this essentially tells you how much density your UVs are taking up on the UV space. Okay. So now I'm gonna scale this down so it has roughly the same color as everything else. Like that. Should be fine. And then I'm going to pin some points over here. I usually like to pin the corner points. Same thing over here. And then everything here in the center. And now what I'm doing is I already have the 2D cursor over here in the center. But let's say I have it somewhere over here. I can actually go in here and... Oh, it's actually a bit hard to read, I think. Sorry. I can actually set the 2D cursor position. And if I set it to 0.5 and 0.5, it's exactly in the center of the first UDIM. So now I can actually scale this over here and scale it along... here's my pivot point settings. Scale it along the 2D cursor and then scale it down on the x-axis to 0. And now I can be sure that it's exactly in the center. Now if I like nudge these points, should be able to... I want to relieve a little bit of stretching here in the center. But that won't be very easy to do. Yeah, okay. Not a huge fan of how the proportional editing is actually affecting other UV islands. There must be a way around this. But yeah, this seems to be good for now. I'm gonna just move some of this around a bit more. I don't care about the about the left side over here, because that one is just going to get mirrored later on. Okay, moving some more stuff around. There we go. Okay, I think this is fine. The inner mouth is fine. I don't like how much stretching is happening over here on the shoulders, but there's not much I can do about it. I can like move some of this a bit more around, but I don't know, it's still gonna remain blue. I can stretch this a bit more, get it more towards green. Same thing over here, like that. I'm gonna just quickly look at what I got. Yeah, the back of the head, I don't actually care too much about it because it's going to get covered by the hair. And if I add exit to object mode, I think this is all looking pretty nice. It's a bit wobbly over here, but hopefully that shouldn't be too bad. Especially once it gets subdivided, which is the most important thing for me. That it looks well when subdivided. There we go. Okay. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm just gonna quickly look at the hands. Also, again, I'm just gonna quickly switch these. So I have the UV editor on the top again. Yeah. There's quite a bit of stretching over here on the hand. It's not nice, but... Hold on. So, if I have connected only over here in the 3D viewport, it's also using connected only in the UV editor. Okay, so these are exactly the same settings. They're just not, they're shared across the editors, but for some reason it's not displayed in the... Yeah, it's not even displayed in the UV editor. That's a bit of a shame. I see some more questions. Will you be making a stream about rigging? No, not me at least. Maybe someone else. Why is the lower jaw teeth up in the air? I think it's above the head. Please check. Up in the air. So wait, if I hide this, no? Oh. Yeah, something went wrong. Thanks for the tip. So if I unhide everything? What happened here? The teeth are gone. Where are the teeth? They're up here. That's so strange. Okay. This is ideally something I would revert. Like, I would search for the last version where this wasn't broken. But, let's see. I'm just gonna quickly try to fix it by hand. Which is not the best way to do it, but... Wow, thanks for the tip. Another question. If I recall correctly, in the previous stream you hid some of the items on the header. Perhaps that is where the missing proportional editing options are. Well, I did try to look for them there. Like, there's like two aspects to the header, and that's the header itself and the tool settings. But there are no extra settings that I could like show. So if I have the tool settings, it's just showing the pivot settings, which is also a bit of an issue. No, it's always there. Okay. But yeah, the proportional editing settings are just not there. Another question, why is UV unwrapping important? It's essential for texturing. So if you want to have a texture on your model, you need to have UVs. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. Okay, I'm actually just going to delete the lower teeth and the lower... Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna delete these two objects and I'm just going to get them from a different file. So I'm just gonna search for Blender. Let's see. And I'm going to go to the original sculpt that I had. Because I know in there I still have the teeth, and they are already retopologized. I stole them, or like I stole them from one of my previous models, from Rain. So it's just saving me a bit of time. So yeah, here we go. Okay. I don't need this. What I need is this one. Oh boy. Okay, the original sculpt of snow, and there are no teeth. So over here, still no teeth. Expression tests, there are teeth. Perfect. So I'm just gonna go to frame 1. And yeah, these are pretty much exactly the teeth that I need. So I can just take them. But first I need to select both of these, unparent them from whatever they're parented to, just so I don't drag that with me into the other file, and then kill any animation that these might have. So I'm just going to right click on these and clear keyframes, because that will also just cause issues once I copy them over. So now I can just select them, Control C to copy them, go over to the other file and Control V to paste them, and it crashed. God damn it. That's what I wanted to avoid, the crashing. Okay. Why is it still crashing over here? I think it's... Oh yeah, I know why. I have drivers on shape keys. So if I get rid of these, I can copy it. I should report this bug, actually. I had this now multiple times, so I know what's causing it. Hold on. Is this looking right? Yeah, it is. Okay, now I got the teeth back where they're supposed to be. And just to make sure that they're not flying off again, I'm going to apply all their transforms. So apply all transforms, and now they are completely in a 0 location, 0 rotation, and scale on 1. So they won't actually move, or if they move, I can just reset their transforms, and then they should get back to the same spot. So if they ever move away again, I can just press Alt-G, and they're snapping back. Or like if they would rotate, scale, and move like before, I can just press Alt-G, Alt-R, and Alt-S, and it just resets their transforms. Another question, how to make the inner mouth? Well, I have time lapses on the Blender Cloud, if you're interested. So this character is kind of tied to the Stylized character workflow, a course I did for on the Blender Cloud. So you can check it out over there. There's like plenty of time lapses where I'm actually like sculpting and modeling teeth. When sculpting, I always somehow run out of geometry even if I'm remeshing, I see someone ask. Well, it's a bit of a bit of a skill to work with the least amount of resolution that you need. So try to not go to the tens of millions of faces. You can have like dozens of millions of faces of geometry in your scene, in your viewport, but you should try to keep it to an absolute minimum per object. So when I sculpt it, yeah, here we go. So when I sculpted this, you can actually look at the resolution, and it's actually not that dense. Overall, it's like 5.7 million faces. No, 5.8 million triangles. It's actually like 2.9 million faces. So I didn't need much more resolution than this to get to the amount of detail that I needed to capture all the shapes. If you need to get to like a super high amount to define every wrinkle, every crease, every pore, then you should do that either via texturing or via the multi-resolution modifier. But that is that is a bit of a tricky task to do. It shouldn't be underestimated. Anyway, back to the UVs and to some questions. What is the shortcut for the navigation in View? So, hold on. I actually have a different shortcut. Like, I think you mean this one? The View pie menu? What is the shortcut for the navigation in View? It changed in the current, like right now there's a bit of a discussion going on in the latest alpha version of 3.0, but in any other version it's on tilde. It's the key above tab. I see Falk ask, is the bug copying an object with drivers to another file? I can write up a report and test it on my end. Yes, if you could test it, that would be amazing. It is really if there's a driver that is referring to an object that is not being copied over with the other one. So then it just doesn't understand. It's like it's like referring to an object that doesn't exist and it crashes. That's at least my suspicion. And another question, but we have to pay for them. Yes, sorry. Yeah, the time lapses are all behind the subscription, so that's a bit sad, but I don't have time to actually show it in the live stream, sadly. Just quickly drinking something. Maybe if I do another sculpting live stream, I can show it. Okay. Okay, then I am pretty happy with the UVs for now. The hands could be better, but hold on. I'm actually going to try it. So I'm going to pin some more points on the hands. There we go. Like that. Any pinned point will not move, or will only move if I want it to. And I can also pin these points over here. There we go. Okay, I'm actually going to move to the sculpting brushes in the UV editor just to get like a sense of what I want to achieve here. So if I smooth over this a little bit, only like very subtly, I can actually see what would be the ideal distribution. Okay. Now I'm just gonna select all of these and pin them. So if I move one of them again, okay, that looks much better. I'm gonna do the same thing over here, just select all of these guys and pin them. And now if I use the sculpting brushes, I can distribute them a bit better. There we go. I think this might be fine. And then I can just move one point and it just adjusts everything that is not pinned. Same thing over here. I'm gonna pin these. Ah! I always pressed the wrong shortcut. There we go. Oh god. Okay. This is getting a bit more like better distributed. There we go. I just want it to be roughly the same color. There we go. And then I'm also going to pin all of these. Then I can like move this further in. And they share a bit more of the same color. Same thing over here. I'm gonna pin all of these. And then smooth over them. And then afterwards I need to check how much stretching that actually causes on the individual UV points. On the individual face corners of the UVs. But I think this should be fine. Let's see. Fully? Okay. Let's move one of these points, see what happens. Okay, I'm actually going to switch the stretching from angle, the overlay, from area to angle, and then I can see what I'm actually doing over here. It's actually going into yellow. That's not good. The stretching of the angles over here should not go into yellow. If anything, green is still okay. But if it gets towards yellow, that means the UV faces are getting so skewed, so stretched, that will be showing up in the UVs. Oh man. Orange is even worse. Oh man. Okay, okay. Yeah, I feel like I'm like getting close to something, but it takes quite a bit of effort to not ruin the UVs over here. I wish I could change the seams a bit, so this gets a bit more, like a bit better distributed, but I think I will be fine. Like this. Okay, I'm gonna switch the... Yeah, damn it. I think I should just leave it on this. Otherwise it's just gonna get worse. But I should also check it out in the 3D viewport. How does it look from below? Well, I guess that would be more obvious once I actually open the palms, but like open the fingers, stretch them. But I think this should be fine. It's not perfect, but it's also not necessary to have it exactly perfect. Okay. Some more questions. Please make a sculpting time-lapse which shows from scratch if you can on YouTube. That would be nice. I only did like a couple sculpting live streams on the Blender Studio channel before, and it was for Michelle, the character from Cosmos Laundromat, or like the original main character. Some more questions. I'm new, can you please help me? Sorry, this is less of a tutorial, but I can answer specific questions. Falk says, wasn't able to reproduce it. Copying an object with a driver to another object will paste both objects in a new Blender file instance for me. What? Then I will try to reproduce the bug. I'm gonna do that later then. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I'm gonna leave the UVs at that for the body, and I will repeat basically what I did for the clothes. So that's the next part. There's also still the hair, and there's the inner mouth objects like the teeth, gums, tongue, the eyes, all of that stuff. But I think the clothing would actually be really nice to do next. So that would be the shoes, the pants, and the shirt over here. Okay, so I'm going to just give them the same material, so they can also show this grid texture that I have. Bam. And we can see the UVs are basically non-existent or completely messed up. Luckily, because I copied over this object from Rain, it actually already has a UV map. Let's see, I just need to split the object into multiple ones. Let's see. So there's the sock that needs to be its own object. And all of this is already UV unwrapped. And the laces are their own object as well. As well as all of these little grommets. Or like, I don't know what the actual term is, I just call them grommets. Okay, so all of the different shoe objects are now separated. But yeah, this is really just kind of unwrapped the same way as I did the body. If you're interested in that, you can watch the previous live stream. Or you can watch me now unwrap the clothing pieces in the same way. There we go. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go into edit mode over here, and I think I'm actually going to use this overlay for once. which can actually be helpful. So fade inactive geometry. So it's just fading all the other objects. So I can focus a bit more on this one. There we go. So same story over here. Well, first off, I'm just gonna press U and then reset the UVs. Actually, I'm just gonna scale them down to 0. There we go. So that means all the UVs are gone. Like, I can just completely start from scratch. I'm going to keep the subdivision surface modifier enabled, so the geometry shows up nice and smooth. And luckily, during the sculpting and also the retopologizing, I made sure that there's a loop directly pretty much on the seam over here, the actual seam of the object. So I can just select that one and mark it as a seam. There we go. And it actually just unwrapped it because I have live unwrap enabled. Same thing in the 3D viewport. So now, if I actually, again, just like I said in the last live stream, if I select one seam, I can actually press Shift G and then select similar, and I can select, I can choose seam, and then it selects all the seams I have. And then with the shortcut Control Shift M, I think it was? No. I can search for it, select mirror. Control Shift M. Yeah. It actually fails because the object is not symmetrical. Okay. So, haha, damn it. That's actually something I need to deal with now. It was pretty easy to make symmetrical UVs for the body because the body has perfectly symmetrical topology. But now, over here, that's actually not the case. Ooh, that's an interesting effect. Let's see. The shirt and the pants are actually asymmetrical geometry. So keeping them symmetrical will be pretty difficult. Let's see. Also, I'm going to place a seam right over here. And over here. Because there's also a seam here. Let's actually see. You can actually switch between Eevee and Workbench to see the geometry more easily. Yes. There are like seams in the geometry right here. So if I mark this as a seam, that will much more nicely also split the front and the back of the shirt into two. Basically like how a shirt would be sewn. Yes. So I have the front part and the back part. Perfect. Then I'm just going to put this into local view so I can focus a bit more on this specifically. Let's see. I actually want to separate the inner side or the inner sides of the shirt over here. So I'm going to mark this as a seam. Same thing over here. Mark this one as a seam. Also over here on the collar. It's not much, but I would still like to have this separated. And the same thing at the bottom over here probably. Yes. Over here again, I also want this separated. There we go. There's also some new questions. What does pinning before smoothing? Well, I can show you. So I'm going to show what pinning does. Especially in combination with live unwrap, where it's actually meant to be used with. So I actually enabled live unwrapping over here in the UV editor and in the 3D viewport, which means if I would at any point add a seam or make any adjustments to anything in the UV editor, it will just automatically unwrap the model again. So I could like like for example, move this over here to the side, scale it, whatever. But the moment I place or clear another seam, it will actually just unwrap it again. It's really useful, so I don't have to constantly unwrap everything again, but it actually has another purpose. So just like how I did with the other objects, I can actually just pin individual points over here. So I can select individual little UV points and press P, and then they're pinned, they're red. So same thing over here, I can just select all of these, for example, and now if I scale these, hold on, I actually have the selection synced. I didn't want that. So now, if I scale all of these along the x-axis, it actually like flattens the side over here, and it adjusts all the other UVs to it. Like everything that is pinned, I have complete control over, like this. And everything that is unpinned will move in relation to the other pinned UV points. So that is super useful. I'm gonna quickly undo all of that pinning though. And let's see. First of all, I want to make sure that I have all of the seams I need. I think I do. Let's see. I mean, it should be good. So the pinning I can really use to straighten the UVs. So let's actually go to Eevee. And I want to actually, like, if I rotate around an Eevee, the HDRI that's lighting the model is not moving with me. So I can toggle this button, and then the lighting of the HDRI light will actually rotate with the viewport. So that makes it a bit easier. I'm gonna save. So what I really want to achieve over here is I want to make sure that the UVs are again as symmetrical as possible, but I also want to straighten them so that once I would add a fabric pattern as a texture on top, it would actually follow the UVs. So that makes it really easy to like add any like fine detailed texture. If the UVs are laid out really nicely, it will just follow the direction of the fabric like a T, to a T, how the saying goes. So I'm just gonna rotate this around, move all of these away. I'm just gonna focus on the front and the back of the shirt for now. Okay, so for example, over here, this would look really ugly. Imagine the grid pattern is your fabric direction. You don't have a shirt that has fabric patterns that move in a curve along the sleeve. It's just not how it works. So I would like to fix this and clean it up a bit. I'm gonna pin these over here again, like that. And I'm also going to pin these down here. And also I would like to pin all of these in the middle. I know that these specifically are perfectly in the center. All the way until here, I think. Yeah. So I can also unpin this one. And I want to pin these and have these perfectly in the center of the UV map. So let's just do that. For that, I'm actually going to disable the display stretching overlay, just so I can align it better, like that. Okay, then I will select all of these and actually scale them down to 0 along the x-axis. then I can select all of these points over here, and let's enable the display stretching, the overlay again, based on area, that's correct. And then I'm going to scale these two sides along their individual origins. So if I would normally just scale them along the x-axis, like this would happen. But I want to flatten them, so I'm gonna scale them along individual origins, like that. 0. Now, I'm also going to pin this point and this point. Actually, I'm gonna pin all of this and actually scale it down along the y-axis. Now keeping this symmetrical will be quite the challenge. Wish there would be an easier way. Okay, there we go. With proportional editing, I can scale this. I'm gonna unpin this. Okay. I also see some more questions popping up in the chat. Will there be any modeling streams? That would be nice. I could do that. Thanks a lot. Your videos are so helpful. Can you briefly tell us the important main cuts for the UV unwrap? Like, I mean, for the shirt, I can show it. It's in that case, I pretty much really just tried to place them where the actual seams of the cloth would be. So along the sleeves, the collar, wherever you would want to have actual seams later on, over here. Like over here, like you can actually see it in the shape. This is where you would also want to place your UV seams. Also another question, important question, could you tell the name of the film? I really don't know, and your all videos are so helpful. Thank you for these videos. Thank you. This is actually not tied to any movie. This is just another character that will be freely available once it's completely textured and rigged. Which I don't know when that's gonna happen, but there's already another completely free and open source character available in the same series, and she's called Rain. You can actually find more info in the description of the video. Also where to download her. Another question. I thought the main character in Cosmos Laundromat name is Frank. It is, but originally the main character of Cosmos Laundromat was called Michelle. So there was quite a bit of changes in the story apparently, and the original, like you can look up on YouTube a Project Gooseberry trailer, and in the, like that is going to show you the original character designs and the original story essentially, and how much that has changed. It's insane. Okay. I wonder if I can... Okay. So this is kind of what I want to have. But the fabric is getting stretched a bit over here, which is not great. So I actually need to move it in. So if I now take all of this and move it in, how much? Like minus 0.03. Then I can select all of this and move it in 0.03 along the x-axis, and then it will still be kind of symmetrical. Now what about the area over here? That's getting quite a bit of stretching. That's not great. Actually want to see how I could solve that. Like this, basically. Not moving it this down, but also to the side. Okay, so I'm gonna move all of this. Move it actually a bit more to the side over here. Yeah, now it's getting really tricky. I don't think I can keep the shirt symmetrical. It's just not something I can do. So I'm actually just going to move it around. Oh. There we go. Okay. Oh, there's actually overlapping UVs over here. I don't want that. There we go. Okay, somewhat work. Oh, I moved everything. Okay, that's somewhat working. I want to have this somewhat line up. Are there more questions? Why not put all the seams where a shirt would have them? I do. I do have the seams exactly where the shirt would have them. So, kinda. It's not... shirts are sometimes sewn a bit differently, but in this case I have... Actually, if I would have wanted it to be with less stretching, I should have actually... Yeah, I should have probably retopologized this and sculpted this in a way where the sewing is actually exactly going over here as well. Right along here. Almost. Right now I have a seam right here, but realistically you would not have the sleeves as the same piece of cloth as the main part. So that's a bit of my fault. I think I can still add the seams over here, and I will. Okay, add seam. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna add the seams right here. In that case, I'm actually going to select all of this and get rid of the pinned points. There we go. Lost a bit of progress there, but it's fine. Yeah, this will make it easier for the sleeves. Another question. Use the top vert as the rotation pivot. It will cut vertically as your shirt. Sorry, I don't understand. It's a bit of a... Yeah, it's... I see this too late. I feel like this would have been relevant a couple minutes ago. Okay. Okay, so. think overall this is already working kind of well. I can like pin this again and pin these parts down here. And now I can scale this down so this happens. This gets a bit more straightened. It's perfect. Then I'm gonna actually pin these. I'm just gonna try this and scale them again along their... Let's see. Does that actually work? Move this outwards. And move this outwards. Oh, and these pinned vertices were kind of left behind. I need to enable proportional editing. Otherwise I'm just gonna run into issues. But this is already working pretty well. There we go. Yeah, this is like if the sewing pattern would, if the texture pattern would follow these UVs, it would actually be kind of nice. No obvious stretching, everything kind of even. So now I can just do the same thing for the back. Just gonna disable proportional editing again. And same thing over here. I want to pin quite a few of these. So I'm just gonna sync the selection, select all of these over here and pin them. Now I want these to be scaled down to 0 along the x-axis, exactly where the 2D cursor is. So if the 2D cursor is exactly in the center of the UV tile and I scale this down, oh, don't sync the selection anymore. Okay, and I scale this down to 0. There we go. Now I need to pin these over here as well and scale them down along the x-axis. And now they will align perfectly with the other side. Like that. Now over here, this I actually want to scale down as well on the y-axis, because then the if this is like, if this hold on, if this is skewed, it might look exactly like the model, but it's not how the fabric pattern would follow the model. Realistically, it should follow the, like it should follow the shirt. There's like folds over here, and it shouldn't go like straight over here. So if I undo this a bit, scale, hold on, scale this down along the x-axis. Come on. Why is this happening? Oh, I think I know why. Oh, the moment something overlaps with the other pinned points, it will actually freak out. Damn it. So if a pinpoint is overlapping with another one, and this happens a lot, it will not understand how the UVs actually relate to the 3D model anymore. That is insane. Let's pin these as well. And move them, scale them also along their individual origins, so I get this a bit more straight. Which means this is getting messed up. Yeah, I don't mind if this is getting a bit more skewed. But it should be more straight towards the bottom over here. There we go. I think this looks kind of nice. Okay. What's going on in the chat? Hola! Okay, so now there's still the sleeves. I'm actually going to sync the selection just so I know where what is. What's going on with this? Oh, that's the inner side. Why is it moving together though? That's strange. Yeah. Oh, it's proportional editing. Wow. Okay, so this is the right side. Hold on. I think I'm actually going to get rid of this seam over here. Oh. Which messes up quite a bit of the UVs. Actually, no, it doesn't. I can just clear the seam over here, which just means that these got adjusted. I can just move these away. Yeah, didn't actually change anything, only that these points also need to be pinned. This one as well. There we go. Now, I want this to still be symmetrical. That's the tricky part. Somewhat symmetrical. So this is the right side. This is the left side. Need to scale this down a bit. And now they're sort of the same size. There we go. If everything is kind of blue, that means the islands overall have the same size. the more it's blue, the better it is. But I wish the overlay would take UDIMs into account. That would be nice. Anyway, I'm also going to get rid of the seam over here. Which means I first need to... If I pin 2 points on a UV island, it means it won't move with live unwrapping because it has somewhat a sense of position, rotation, and scale. Because it has to uphold the position of these 2 points per UV island. So now, if I make any adjustments over here to the seams, it will change whatever it can. Like over here, clear seam. Oh, right. Actually shouldn't pin these points then. I can clear the seam and now they get like actually added down here. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna pin this point, these points over here instead, and not these. There we go. Okay, scaling this down again. There we go. Just aligning these UVs in a way that makes sense. I feel like there's a bit of overlapping UVs, but I don't know why. Yeah, they overlap actually over here. I'm not exactly sure why. Whatever is causing this, I need to stop it from happening. So I'm gonna pin these points over here just so I can move them around in a very specific way so they don't overlap. There we go. Ah, I see some more questions. The Blender mesh, the Michelle sculpt is starting from a base mesh. I want to know how to do it from a sphere. Oh, well, I mean, with the Michelle model, I intentionally used a base mesh as a kind of a bit of a challenge because it was not the best base mesh to start from, but I wanted to test some of the tools for resculpting models. So I thought it would be a funny idea to actually start from the final topology of Frank and just make Michelle out of that. If you want to know how to start with a sphere or like any other primitive objects, there is like, I cannot count how many time lapses and how many tutorials there are on YouTube. I wish I could like make a Maybe I should at some point like make a playlist or something. I would love to do that, just of the best time lapses and tutorials that I found. But if you just search for it, there are plenty of answers actually. Okay, hold on. So. Okay, this is the back, this is the back over here, and this is the front. Okay, we're rotating this across. Okay, I just need to check if the orientation of all of these is actually correct. This one is not. There we go. And this one is also not rotated correctly. I want to rotate this 180 degrees over. This is why I love this grid pattern. I can actually see the orientation. This is also wrong. Is it? Yes, it is. Now, I'm gonna try something. If I have this mirrored, yeah, the UV unwrap, the automatic UV unwrap just kind of breaks, which is a bit of a shame. Okay, but I'm just gonna fix one side first. Okay, so same thing as before, pretty much. I'm gonna select everything over here, and I want this, like the pattern of the grid, the UVs to actually follow how the sewing would actually work, how the texture would later follow the structure of the surface. So if I now scale this along the x-axis to 0, scale it up with the pinned points, I can actually ensure that this happens. So now it's actually nice and straight. Although I would probably also want this to be a bit more straightened and rotated like that, just a tiny bit. Okay. Now on the back, I think I need to do pretty much exactly the same thing. Yeah, scaling this along the x-axis to 0, scaling it up like that. And it's super fast and easy to actually make the pattern be straight. If I enable subdivisions, the subdivision surface modifier, I can actually compare. Oh, I'm also going to pin these, scale them down, because then I can actually compare this and make sure that both of these sides are completely straight and leading into each other, like that. And the same thing down here. So I can just like pin these points right here and scale them down along the x-axis to make sure they are perfectly straight. Like that. Now they lead perfectly into each other. Like exactly like that. I see someone say Stitch will help maybe. I try not to use Stitch that much anymore. Actually, especially, or at least once while I'm still using live UV unwrap. It's actually like I don't need Stitch. I can just remove seams and it will just stitch them back together. So stitching is kind of nice if you don't want, like if you already have everything unwrapped and you want to do some very specific changes that won't mess up like your UVs completely, but just kind of like move them around. Is it required to go very detailed with the UVs for texture painting? Not necessarily. I'm going quite detailed with the clothing because I want to not paint that much. I want to be able to just slap some textures on top and have it just work. So that any texture that would be on here would immediately follow the direction I want it to, and I don't have to adjust anything. I want it to just work. I also see someone ask, can you explain textile density? It's a bit tricky. I still I would like to look up some add-ons that might make this a bit easier to measure, but it's like, hold on, I can actually quickly switch to the shader editor and just switch this to closest instead of linear so it doesn't blur the texture. There we go. Perfect. Now, each of these little squares over here is a single pixel. So the textile density would be, for example, like 400 pixels per unit. Like, I'm not exactly sure how it is measured again. I think that's basically how it's measured. So I could like add a cube in here and scale it down to half the size. So this is basically one Blender unit right now, or like one unit. Hold on, I'm just gonna quickly change this to bounds. So you're trying to get a certain density of pixels per this real world scale, or like digital world scale, and that is how we measure things. So if once you have like multiple objects, if they all have to have the same textile density, that means the scale of these grids should be exactly the same. That way you can ensure a consistent detail level in the texture resolution. So whatever object you have, it's going to have a texture. All of the textures will just have the same texture density. They will appear with the same resolution on the screen, essentially. None of them are going to have too much resolution. None of them are going to end up blurred. In this case, I don't care about that too much. I want to mainly use the texture space as efficiently as possible, while still having everything symmetrical. And I want the head, in this case, I don't mind that it has a higher textile density, because I want the head to have more resolution, because the shirt is never going to be seen as close as, for example, the eye. So the eyes need to have more resolution than the shirt. The arm, for example, will not need that much resolution, but the hands, they do. They have much more the potential to be seen up close, so I need them to have a higher textile density. And that is really easy to see with this grid texture. Okay. I hope that explains it, kinda. I think it's nice to visualize it with this grid, because then you can actually see the textile density. So it's a bit easier to explain. I also see a question. I don't know why why even I pin UVs and move the ones. Wait, move. I don't know why when I pin UVs and move other than the ones pinned, move to. Blender 2.93. I'm a bit confused by the question. Sorry. It's That's a bit awkward. Okay, but essentially I'm already getting pretty much on track with the shirt. I'm just thinking I might actually remove these seams over here for the inner side. I'm gonna clear the seams, and now let's see. Yeah. And now this actually works. If I get rid of some of these pins which are making life hard, it actually, yeah, this is much better, to be honest. This way I can make sure that these are pinned along the border, like the edge over here of the sleeve, and they are straight, and then the inner side just immediately transitions over to the other side. There we go. Again, I'm gonna select these over here and unpin them. Then I'm gonna unpin these as well and pin these instead. There we go. Now, something I wish that would be possible in Blender with the live unwrap feature is to actually like take this, for example, mirror it over to the other side, and then for me to just be able to align this perfectly like the other island. But I actually can't. The moment I try to adjust any of these pinned points, it's actually going to just freak out. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to basically try to replicate exactly what I did over here. Pin also this and scale it down along the x-axis. Like that. Perfect. Same thing up here. Pin these. Like that. Okay, so now this is pretty much close to what I have over here. So if I mirror this with Control M and X, I can kind of compare it to this side, get it as close as possible, kind of, and then along the 2D cursor mirror it back to the other side. So now I have it like roughly symmetrical. I can basically do the same thing over here, just mirror this across and just see how much it compares to the other side. And I think this is pretty close enough. In this case, I would like to just scale this down along the x-axis a bit more, like that. And now if I mirror this along the x-axis with a 2D cursor over here as the pivot point, I can compare how symmetrical it is actually. So I can just move some of this around a bit more and mirror it across again. I think this is close enough. I just need to get this part of the sleeve correct again. So I'm gonna unpin all of this. Pin the corners of this little UV island. Move them around so that they kind of align with what I want. There we go. I need to scale it up a bit more. And then same thing, just pin all of these, scale them down along the y-axis. Actually, I want to first do these ones. Then these ones up here. There we go. And then the ones down here. Scale them along the y-axis to 0. There we go. And now I can again grab these as well. Move them over to the other side. Control M, X. Mirror them across. scale them a bit, and now just kind of compare how they look like. And mirror it over to the other side again. And I think I know what I want to do to make them even more symmetrical. And for that I need to use proportional editing over here. Kind of move all of this a bit more to the side. There we go. So now it's a bit more symmetrical. Not perfectly, but close enough. I think this is fine. Well, it's at this point the symmetry of the UVs is purely for organization. I don't really get the benefit of having symmetrical UVs anymore because they're not fully symmetrical. If I would ever take the textures that I'm painting on this and moving them over to a 2D painting application like Krita or Photoshop, and edit them, mirror them across, the mirroring would not work. Like, the symmetry that I have here is just not quite as useful. Maybe in some cases it would actually be enough. But here we go. So now I can actually check out my UVs, and this is actually quite clean, and the grid is actually very much perfectly following the shape over here. It is getting a bit stretched over here at the ends though, and I'm not exactly sure why. It's something that's definitely already happening in the UVs. So if I change it to angle stretching, I might be able to see what is happening. Yeah. Over here. I'll move these around. Like that. Same thing over here. Yep. Same thing over here. I don't know, it's getting a bit stretched, but maybe this is fine. Here not so much. Also it's like leading a bit inwards, but should be fine. So that's the shirt also taken care of. So now I can move into the pants and basically do exactly the same thing. So I can just isolate this and start, hold on. I'm gonna select all of this and just scale it to 0. Now, I'm gonna select exactly where I want to have the seams, which is right over here. Yes. Exactly, and then the same thing on the inner side. Which is actually nicely following through the entire mesh. Perfect. So now I can do the same thing down here. Seams over here. And right over here. And over here. And let's not forget this part. I feel like I messed up a bit over here because yeah, I mean I can just mark these as seams, see what happens. So now it's actually UV unwrapped, but I want this to actually be split in the middle. Just makes it a lot easier. So I can just select all of this. Oh, I still have the, like if I select the shortest path, it's actually still going to mark it as seams instead of selecting. You can actually find that setting if you ever pick shortest path by holding Control and selecting. By default it's selecting, but you can actually change the behavior to mark seams instead. It's like not a lot of people know about this. Okay, this kind of works. Nice. Okay. I think this is pretty much exactly what I want. I am not going to add seams again to the borders of the the clothing pieces because it's supposed to follow through on the inside. Ah, didn't fully split it over here. So I still need to mark this as a seam. And now I have it fully split. Okay. I'm gonna change it to area stretching. There we go. Now I'm gonna sync the selection just to be sure that I can arrange this correctly. There we go, like that. Okay, let's see how I can actually save as much space as possible. There we go. Okay, I'm already pretty happy with where I placed these, so what I'm going to do is I will actually pin some of these points. Not these. Okay. Yeah, I also actually want to add seams over here. It just makes kind of sense. Now, of course, it tries to unwrap everything again, but it can't, so it just unwraps anything that it can unwrap, which in this case is everything that I don't have pinned. All of this I pinned already, this I didn't, so that's why it's now filling up the entire space. There we go. Okay. Okay. Yeah, right now it's really just about arranging everything over here. Like that. Saving. Are there any more questions? Sorry if I missed anything in the past 10 minutes. Hey, when is Agent 3.7, Agent 327 going to be in production? What's the progress on crowdfunding? Love to know the approximate timeline if it's possible. Well, right now there's not really a timeline. There was, I mean, Agent 327, there's still sometimes experimentations with the style going on. and more concepts being thrown around. But I think even like questions about the funding are pretty far. I think I think Ton has a pretty firm grasp on what he wants to do, but I think the main thing that's holding the project from actually going into even pre-production is there's still not a full agreement on the story, on the script. Well, there's always multiple things going on, but it's getting there, but it needs a bit more time in the oven. Let's see. Actually need to put this here. So there's like no timeline, sadly. Sorry if that's not very satisfying. Okay, so in terms of the UVs for the pants, this is already pretty good. But I again need to do the same treatment. Symmetry and making sure all of this is actually nicely following a pattern. So if I would actually later slap a texture on it, it would just work. So I'm gonna unsync the selection so I can more reliably select and pin individual UV points. Like that. Scale this to 0. Actually, not these. I want to select these points right here. Pin and scale these to 0. There we go. Then pretty much the same thing over here, but again, not the lowest points. Those are not the ones I want to pin. Instead, the lowest points that you can see pretty much on the pants, which are essentially these over here. I want these to be straight on the UV map. So if I now scale these down, oh, it's the wrong side. If I now scale these down, it actually starts to align the grids perfectly. There we go. It's exactly what I want. Like that. Now I think I want the outer edges over here to also be more straight. Like that. Just a little bit. There we go. And then over here, I think it might just be enough to pin the corner and then move that one around. Like that. Well, actually, I'm gonna pin all of these over here. There we go. I think that's good. Same thing over here. Actually, that's causing a bit of stretching. Not sure if I'm doing the right thing, at least over here. So I'm gonna keep it pretty much as it is. Okay. What else? Pretty much the same thing over here on the other side. I want to select these over here, pin them, scale them down without proportional editing. There we go. Oh, and I'm gonna get rid of these pins right over here. And I should also do the same over here. Oh. Save. Yeah, now these are actually immediately getting better UVs. Yeah, perfect. Okay, I also want to pin these, scale them along the x-axis to 0. Maybe not. This is actually perfect. Because there is a bit of a corner over here, which needs to be in the UV map as well. Perfect. Now what I need to do is also align the UVs over on this side a bit more. Just a bit. Okay, I'm gonna pin these points too. Okay, I think this looks kinda nice. Sorry if I'm a bit quiet, like I'm really just trying to concentrate on getting this as close to done as possible, because it would be nice if I can have at the end of the stream the clothing at least done. Okay, still need to do a very similar thing over here. What's going on at the bottom of these pants? It's really strange. Oh no, this is expected. It's just the retopology that I left a little bit messy down here. Yes. This is the part that I want to straighten. Oh, again, I don't want this pinned anymore. That, and I want to pin this and unpin this. Now I can straighten this as well. Same story over here. I want to pin these, and along the individual origins, just straighten them a bit as well. Wait, I'm gonna do this one first. And then the same thing over here, but first let's move this a bit more to the side. There we go. Okay, and same thing over here again. I think I need to move this further inwards. There we go. Okay. I also see a question. Can you explain the difference between height and displacement? Thanks. It's actually a good question. As far as I know, there is no... Maybe there's a difference in like how game engines treat height maps, but a height map implies a difference in height in like either inwards or outwards, and that is basically done the same way as a displacement map. So I think they're the same. If anything, a height map could be usually just regular 8-bit textures, and displacement maps are typically 16-bit to have a bit more information in depth, but they aren't the same. Yeah, then I need to look that up. So what's actually the difference between a height map and a displacement map? Maybe someone in the chat knows an answer. I'm also really, like, I would be interested in knowing what the difference is. Can't look it up right now because I need to focus on this. I don't think a height map is just a bump map. Like, they're definitely not the same. That can't be. But if a height map is also not the same as a displacement map, then what is the difference? Okay, I'm now going to select all of this and mirror it across to the other side. Like that. Oh wow, that's quite a difference. Well, one side is pretty similar to the other. This one has some severe differences. Okay. I'm going to select all of this. and mirror it back to the other side. Now this is one of the causes of the strong difference. So if I unpin this, I would be able to sort this out a bit more, make this a bit more straight. Ooh, I think someone's answering the question. Okay. Hold on. Okay, now I will select, hold on, I'm just gonna first finish this. So I'm gonna select all of this and move it further in. Same thing over here. Because then I can scale the UVs up in general. There we go. So I don't think there's a lot of wasted texture space anymore over here. And all of the UV islands have pretty good spacing between each other. So there we go. UVs on the pants as well. And there's UVs on the shoes. So with that, all of the main objects that are visible should be UV unwrapped. The other objects that are still missing are like the eyes, the inner mouth, the eyebrows, the hair. So I can just actually enable all of these objects that still need to be UV unwrapped. Yeah, all of these and all of these. Actually gonna get rid of these materials. What? Okay. There we go. Yeah, all of these still need UVs. So I'm gonna do that in the next snow stream. That shouldn't be too much work. Ooh, what's going on over here? That shouldn't happen. I'm gonna fix that now. Okay. There should be no intersection here. That's weird that that was the case. Anyway, I'm gonna quickly go through the chat. One is only vertical displacement, one dimension. The other uses three-dimensional displacement. What? Displacement map can mean, but it doesn't always mean a vector displacement. Well, yes. I mean, then a displacement map is like a broader term. Wait, I'm gonna finish reading. Vector displacement at each point on the surface. Height map implies only a scalar displacement value. Each point gets pushed along its normal. Okay, that makes sense. Bump map is 8-bit. Height looks like a bump, but it has usually more data. But has the bump map only in one direction. Isn't the difference just how they're used? Like displacement map translates every vertex, but height are faked, more detail per pixel, like a normal map. Displacement map can be in one direction, but can be a vector and move the geometry in any direction. Ha! I mean, what Peter over there said, that like displacement is just moving geometry, that's not necessarily the case. You can use a displacement map to also add bump information at the same time, so it's not necessarily like that, but it is an interesting point that a displacement texture can be a vector as well. Like it can have 3 different vector informations for displacement, not just one direction. But that's not always the case. So what is the difference between a displacement map that is just moving geometry, or like adding bump information in one direction? I mean, then there would be no difference between a height map and a displacement map. I see also some more comments in there. I would say that height and displacement maps are technically the same, except for the vertex displacement maps that can displace in any direction than the normal. So yeah, vector displacement, you mean. I mainly hear about height maps when it comes to terrain or landscape, while displacement contains smaller details, but under the hood they're the same. In Substance Painter, all height is just another term for displacement maps. Ha! Yeah, I think that sounds pretty much correct. I wasn't even like thinking about vector displacement when comparing them, but okay, interesting. Yeah, okay. It's good to know. Well, I would love to like mess around more with vector displacement, to be honest, especially with vector displacement maps. I hope they will like I hope it would be at some point possible to bake them in Blender. That would be insane. But yes, I think there's pretty good progress. There is also more UVs I want to add to the clothes later on. So I think I'm just gonna keep calling these just UV map. So because it's the main UV map, this should be the default. But when it comes to the clothes, I want to later on add more UV maps to this, specifically to add seams and sewing patterns, like extra little details that could be added procedurally instead of texture painting them in. I really want to try that. That's usually something that like Simon Thomas, for example, did, and I want to get a bit more into procedural texturing, but I'm gonna do that later on, maybe even in the texturing streams. That would be nice. But I'm gonna leave it at this for now, and I will be back next time for the hairy topology. And I'm just gonna quickly read through the chat again. Okay, well. Sorry to cut the conversation short, but it's after 6. I had my 2 hours, and I think this is the moment to stop the stream. So, oh wait, is it actually frozen? Oh no. Okay, I hope it's not frozen. Everything fine? Oh no. Anyway, see you next week for another stream. I hope this was insightful, and I might just like ask at some point soon, like just ask around, like, what do you want to see? Maybe there's something, a part of the production that you're really interested, even though right now I'm mainly focusing on the props and the set work, but maybe there's gonna be some lighting tasks soon. Who knows? But I will keep you updated, and I will see you soon.